Welcome one, welcome all to the podcast that shines the light on athletes past, future and present. This is their story. This is 2020 Vision. Hello and welcome to episode 23 of 2020 Vision. On this week's episode, we speak to Australian race walker and Olympian Jared Tallent. Jared chats to us about his time in the AIS, on the track, and who and what got him involved in the sport that he loves. Here is my chat with Jared Tallent. Jared Tallent, I thank you very much for joining me on 2020 Vision. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on the medals that you've just been awarded over in Doha.
Thanks, Jordan. Great to be on here. It was great to get those medals. Something that I've been very much looking forward to. It was 2011, 2013, so a long time ago. So it was quite a wait to get those medals, but something I'm very proud of. I would have liked to have gotten the gold medal from 2011. I don't believe the other Russian is clean, but getting up to silver is better than staying at bronze. So it was a great moment. It was good to be there, and give me some motivation for hopefully getting in the team and getting to Tokyo and having a good shot there. That's right.
Well, we'll talk about that later on in regards to the Russians and your thoughts on that. What we will start with is how you got involved in the sport of race walking and athletics. Do you mind telling us?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I did a lot of swimming and really loved that, but just didn't have the talent for it to take it on to elite level. And so I was doing swimming first, was really enjoying that. And at my primary school, my teacher at the time was a really keen runner, and he would get us out most mornings. First thing of the day would be to run around the school, do a few laps, just 15 minutes. And that's something I enjoyed doing as well. And he encouraged my parents to take me to athletics, or originally to start cross-country running on a Saturday during the winter. So we started doing that. I was really enjoying that. And then the natural progression there was to do athletics on a Friday night in the summer. And we progressed onto that. And that's where I met my first coach. His name was Daryl Biggin. He'd always run the walk on a Friday night. It was the first event. I had some pretty good talent for it, and really enjoyed doing the first. It was only a 400-metre walk, but I'd have a go at that. I'd always be at the front, and something I quite enjoyed. And then my coach asked me to come along to a come and try day for the Ballarat Racewalking Club, which was held on a Sunday. And, I think it was when I was about 13. So I did that, and just went from there. Started working with Daryl as my coach, and he was coaching me all the way up until I moved to the AIS when I was 19 years of age. And mainly had school competitions that got me to compete at state level and things like that, and then went from there.
No, that's awesome, mate. So as a 19-year-old, the move to the AIS might have been a bit scary for you, was it?
Yeah, it definitely was. Being from the country, I grew up on a potato farm just outside of Ballarat. Definitely not. Wasn't probably ready to move to a bigger city. I was quite enjoying just living in Ballarat, had my friends and family there. So to move away from Ballarat, move all the way to Canberra, and to be 8 hours drive away from your family and friends, it was a bit daunting at the time. But once I got to the AIS and moved in, got to meet some really great people, and then start training with the group. There was a lot of race walkers there at the time, and got to learn from them and see how they trained. Obviously then became a very rewarding experience. Met some really great people at the AIS. Had some great coaches during that time. Obviously Brent Valence took me under his wing and had some great success. It was daunting to start with, but I'm so glad that I did it because I learned so much and really had a really wonderful experience while training there.
No, that's awesome, mate. So for those that don't know anything about the AIS and what they teach you and train you in over there, what was it like for you in regards to the training?
It was a pretty hectic schedule because when I was training in Ballarat, I was normally training like once a day and probably doing up to around 70, 80 kilometres a week. But as soon as I moved to the AIS, it was a big change. It was a big jump, going up to well over 100k a week, training twice a day most days. And for a race walker at the time. It was, meet at 7 a.m. every morning for training with the group, train for a few hours in the morning. You could have physio and massage during the day, whether you worked or you studied, you do a bit of that, and then back in the afternoon for training again at 5 o'clock. And, really learning a lot from all the sports science and sports medicine, the dietitians, things like that at the RAS, using the biomechanics lab. But just really getting through a lot of training, a lot more training than I'd ever done before. And having a good group to train with too was a really important thing. Having people to train with. I had Chris Erickson to train with for a long time, Adam Rudder. Having those guys to push you along really took you to another level. It was always a bit hard training in Ballarat. I was sort of probably the only one at my level. And so I was doing a lot of my training on my own, had my coach with me, he'd be running or on the bike, but to be there at the ARS and train with some great guys, really feed off each other and push each other to the next level was a big part of getting to that elite level that you need to be at.
No, that's awesome, mate. And the thing is, you also get to learn while you're over there. That's something that people might not realise.
Yeah. I mean, you learn so much. I learned a lot around my nutrition, particularly working with Professor Louise Burke. What sort of things I should be doing in the race, especially particularly the 50k event. It's such a long event, so there's a lot you can do nutrition-wise to reach your peak. And just even biomechanics, you learn about altitude training and how effective that can be for your performance. A lot of the championships we raced in are in hot weather, so we do we learn a lot around heat preparation, pre-cooling and stuff before events. All this, all the things you learn, if I wasn't at the RS and didn't have the sport around me like I did there, you probably wouldn't have done some of these things, and it really gives you an edge when you get to the competition. Because I remember going to my second World Championships in 2007. It was in Japan, in Osaka. Very, very hot conditions. We went there really well prepared. We'd used all the resources at the ARS to get prepared. And I think, even though I was disqualified in the race, I think that really gave me an advantage because there was a lot of other athletes that just weren't doing the steps that I was doing before the race to get ready for the heat. And I think just the things that I did really helped boost my performance. I wish I wasn't disqualified because I would have had a really, really great result in that event. But just the things like I did pre-cooling before the event, was wearing the ice vest, had done a lot of work in the heat chamber beforehand, and had a lot of strategies for my fluid intake throughout the race. And I think it was all stuff that I learned from that RAS, and that was going to give me a much better performance. And the following year in Beijing, it definitely paid off, and I think that was a big credit to why I won 2 medals.
Well, the most important thing for you was growth. So tell us about those World Championships following, how you went, for those that don't know about your history.
In 2007?
Continuing on from 2007, so you had that disqualification, which wasn't good, but then continuing on and the growth that you got from that, what did you succeed in?
Yeah, so went to quite a few World Championships. The next ones was 2009, was in Berlin. They weren't a great World Championships for me. I was in really good form throughout the year, and I was had big expectations after the Beijing Olympics where I won 2 medals. And I was probably training at a better level than what it was in 2008. Unfortunately, only a few weeks before, or probably about 5 weeks before the championships, I was training in St. Moritz in Switzerland. We're doing a bit of altitude training to get ready for the World Championships, and I picked up a shin injury, and it took a long while to get over, and I missed quite a bit of training in the final few weeks. And while probably my fitness wasn't down, I think my confidence was, and when I got to the race, just a few things really just put me off my game, and unfortunately came away with not the results I was hoping for. So I was 6th and 7th at the time in the 20 and the 50k, and since then it's been upgraded to 5th and 6th because of doping suspensions. But in the 50k particularly, I was leading at the 40k mark, and really faltered in the last 10k's and dropped out of the medals completely. So they were a pretty disappointing World Championships, but I learned a lot from that. I think some of my race strategies weren't as good as they could have been. I was a bit too overconfident, and I definitely learned learnt from that, because coming to the 2011 World Championships, I was a lot more patient in the 50k, and really tried to have a bit more or better tactics throughout the event, and that paid off. I managed to cross the line in third, but yeah, got that silver medal in the end. And then going on to Moscow was the same. A bit more confidence in what I was doing and just trying to be a bit more tactically smart. Came away with another silver medal, and then again in Beijing, so three silver medals in a row at the World Championships. Couldn't quite ever get that gold medal, but pretty satisfying results over those World Championships.
No, definitely. No, you did mention the word disappointment there. How did you as a person get over that barrier, that word that really does haunt a lot of people?
For me, every time I had a big disappointment, I was always keen to just get back into training and focus on the next event and try and get a better result next time. And 2009 was interesting. I came back so motivated after missing out on a medal. I really just wanted to get back into training, train harder, and prepare for the next event and do really well. We had the National Championships in Melbourne at the end of the year, the 50k. I didn't need to do it because I'd already qualified for the following year's World Cup in Mexico for the 50k. But after such a bit of disappointment in Berlin, I just wanted to really get a good result. So I went to the Nationals down in Melbourne at Falcon Park, 50k Nationals, and actually walked PB, 3 hours 38, well under the 340 mark, which is a big standard in the 50k. It was bettered my PB from the Beijing Olympics, and that was the best comeback from a disappointment, was to go out there and get a great result or a PB. So that's what I always tried to do, is just try to focus on the next event and try to do better next time.
That's right, show that resiliency, and that's what you're known for. Now let's get on to this word doping. It has haunted you in a sense, but also you've come out at the end with upgraded medals. What is your standing? Because you are a big supporter of the fact that the Russians had used drugs. Talk to us about how you feel on that.
It was always just very disappointing for me as an athlete competing against the Russians and knowing that they were most likely always cheating. It was always talked about between clean athletes from different countries. Always talked about with my coach or with other Australians that the Russians are obviously cheating. I remember my first World Cup in 2004. I was in Germany. The day after the competition had finished, it was the Monday, everyone was leaving. Apparently, there was rumours going around there was doping paraphernalia left in the Russians' rooms at the World Cup at the team hotel in Germany. And there was always suspicions. There was always lots of athletes getting banned. They all had the one coach. They all had this training centre they all trained at, and their performances were always ridiculous. What they could do in the race, or they never looked like they were trying, and then they'd just turn it on in the last 5 kilometres of the race or in the 20k and just pull out these insane splits. I remember the Beijing Olympics. Ballarat walked the last 5k of the 20k quicker than my 5k PB, and he didn't even look like he raced a sweat, and it was always pretty obvious that they were doing something wrong. And to race against these guys, knowing that you put in all your effort, hard work and effort, did things the right way, that you just had no chance against them. So for me, the issue now is that I don't think that they haven't really shown that they want to change. They're still getting banned. I know Sergei Bukulin is a Russian that won or crossed the line first at the 2011 World Championships. So he was the gold medalist, but he got stripped of that. He served his 4-year ban, came back. He was trying to get neutral athlete status, so he could compete, like say if he wanted to compete at this year's World Championships, but he's just been banned again because he's been caught doping again. So until the Russians show that they really want to change and make the big changes they need to, I think it's a big cultural problem over there that I really truly believe that they think you have to dope to win, and until they stop thinking that, there's really no way that they can come back into the sport as a country and compete for Russia until they show that they can stop doping and do the right thing like the rest of the world does.
So you've actually come out of this in a good way, in a sense. You've got some upgraded medals. Do you mind talking about what you've received from the Russians that have been banned?
Yeah, so if you look at the Olympics, I've obviously got the gold medal from the London Olympics in the 50k. World Championships, I have gone from, say, Berlin World Championships. I've moved from 6th to 5th in the 20k, from 7th to 6th in the 50k. 2011, I've moved up to silver medal in the 50k. 2013, I've moved up to the silver medal in the 50k. And then the World Teams Championships, 2012, I went from bronze to gold because the two Russians ahead of me were banned for doping. 2014, I've gone from bronze to silver, and then not a Russian, but in 2016, I was a silver medalist, and then the Italian ahead of me was banned for doping, so I've gone to gold there. So there's a lot of events, a lot of medals that have unfortunately changed. So it's interesting. Like these two medals I received at the World Championships in Doha for 2011 and 2013, I didn't have to return my bronze medals. So at home in the minute, I've got 4 World Championship medals from those two events.
You can give those to your little boy. You can play with those until he earns his own later on in life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so a bit of collector's items at the minute, bronze medals. So for me, I have to work out what I'm going to do with them.
No, that's all right. I'm sure there's a place for them, and it's good that you've actually stood up and deserved those medals that you should have got originally.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been pretty outspoken about doping in sport. I just don't understand why you do it, why you think that cheating, if you cheated and then got the result, hey, you can be satisfied with that result. It just blows my mind. I mean, I personally couldn't do it because I don't know how you can live, just be honest with yourself that result is, worthy. So, yeah.
Definitely. Now let's talk about what's next year for you. I know that we're looking to qualify. How are you going to go about doing that?
I'm hoping to qualify to National Championships in December, the 50k in Melbourne. That'll be the best spot for me to qualify for Tokyo, and then I can just get knuckled down in training and prepare for the Olympics, which start in July. So that's the aim at the minute. Hopefully everything keeps going well. I've had a lot of hamstring injuries over the last few years, so I've had hamstring tendinopathies and then occasionally just getting hamstring strains at the worst time. So if I can just keep my hamstrings together, I need some sticky tape or some glue or something. If I can hold them together and just get through this training for the next few months and qualify, then hopefully have a good preparation in the last 6 months leading into Tokyo.
If only there was something that we could do for your hamstrings to keep them intact, and the fact that you're actually willing to go around again is an inspiration, and I must say that you are that to me. I grew up as a race walker, and I remember a few years ago actually messaging you, and you gave me the way that you were walking at the moment and what should be done if you're wanting to get to your level. I didn't do it because it looked ridiculous, but I'm pretty sure that was straight after the 2012 Olympics when you got that gold.
Thanks. Yeah, no, always happy to help athletes coming up, and if I can inspire the younger generation, that's always a great thing. I've really enjoyed the sport, and I like as many people as possible to get in it. It's a great sport to be a part of.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything I can do and it's nice to give back to the sport as well. I mean, it's given me so much, so you always want to do as much as you can to help out people coming through and to inspire them as well.
That's right. There was a little boy that actually, he was an under 12, I believe, a few weeks back that interviewed at you in Adelaide. His name was Xavier from WA. I don't know if you remember, but he...
definitely remember.
Yeah, he had the
asked a lot of insightful questions. It was a great little chat we had.
That's right. It amazed me. I couldn't believe it actually when I got the video sent to me. But what would you give someone like Xavier in regards to advice? What would you say to a young up and coming athlete?
For me, it's always just about you gotta have fun. You've got to enjoy it. Just enjoy the training, have good times, and not take it too seriously. It's just all about having fun at that age, particularly. Try your best, but just make sure you're having fun and you make friends along the way. So, if you want to take it further, there's plenty of time, and you can train harder later. But it's always just about enjoying what you're doing and having as much fun along the way.
And that's what it's all about, fun. I thank you very much for joining me for a chat. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck in Melbourne at the end of the year, and also if you do qualify for that, Tokyo next year.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. There we had the great man, Jared Tallent. And I say great because, as you may have heard, I was a bit flustered at some point in that interview because Jared did mean a lot to me growing up. I watched him compete in many Olympics and do great things all around the world. He inspired me to be a race walker, and I hope the words that he said during the chat inspire you as a young person, or even of a person of age, we don't know, to do great things, because that's what people like Jared are all about. They have the inspiration, they have the power to achieve great things and to put that onto others. I thank you very much for joining me on episode 23 of 2020 Vision. Join me next week. Who knows who we're going to get. For more of a look at our athletes that we feature on episodes, go to our Facebook page, 2020 Vision Podcast, where you will find all information on our episodes as well as what's happening next week. This is 2020 Vision.